Jai Hind everyone. Pakistan and Afghanistan. For decades, these two countries had been considered as the closest allies. But now, this war has crossed all the expected timelines and is continuing beyond the expected time frame. With lastly, the Pakistani Defense Minister declaring an open war on Afghanistan and the ceasefire that has been multiple times negotiated by the true allies of Pakistan as well as Afghanistan, this war now looks more like a war of ego. A war wherein the claims that are being made by both the sides are not being verified by either. Both the sides have been regularly condemning the attacks of each other, have been confronting the diplomats of each other, but still they have continued in this open war. So, what does this war exactly means, and what effectively is the current status of this war? All of these things we'll be discussing in this session today. Before moving ahead, let me remind you that today essentially is the last day to avail flat 50% off on StudyIQ IAS GS Foundation batches in our all P2I courses, as well as today is the last day to avail admission in these batches. You just need to use the code SRM Live to avail the maximum discount and best prices for your IAS examination preparation. Now, moving ahead onto this topic. Let us first of all get through the entire timeline of events that had taken place. Essentially, we have seen that Pakistan as well as Afghanistan have been attacking each other primarily around the conflicts arising due to the Durand Line. Okay, but one thing that we need to understand is that it was in 1990s that Pakistan had helped create Afghan Taliban. Okay, it was in 2021 that Taliban had returned to power in Kabul. Okay, and Islamabad since 2021 has been expecting loyalty from them. It was by post 2021 that the relations between Pakistan and Afghanistan were termed so dramatically. Okay, and the core wound has always been around the 2600 plus kilometer long Durand Line. Okay, now Pakistan has been accusing Afghanistan of sheltering the TTP. Okay, and the Afghanistan has been clearly saying that Pakistan has been violating the sovereign rights of Afghanistan. Okay, so one thing that we need to understand here is that Pakistan had created the monster, but it can no longer control it. The colonial created Durand Line remains the unhealed wound, and the TTP is the immediate trigger in this conflict. Okay, if we see, it was in October 2025 that Pakistan had carried out airstrikes in Afghanistan, following which Qatar and Turkey had brokered a temporary ceasefire amongst them. Okay, then it was in February 16, early this year, a suicide bomber had killed 11 Pakistan security personnel and a child at a border checkpoint. And then fast forward, moving on to June 29, 2026, Pakistan had striked Paktika and Kunar, and 36 civilians have been killed according to Taliban. But there has been this cycle that has been continuing since long time. Okay, the countries have been attacking each other. They have been attacking civilian establishments, even though the entire world has very strongly condemned the aggressiveness of Pakistan upon the civilian establishments of Afghanistan. But this cycle continues. First, a side strikes, then the other side condemns, and then a similar strike is followed by this. Okay, but when we talk about the root causes of this, okay, the root causes is the TTP safe havens. Okay, now this is the core issue of the entire problem. Pakistan says that TTP operatives have launched attacks from Afghanistan. Okay, and then they, after launching attack, they retreat across the border. Even though Taliban denies this calling, okay, and calls this a security problem, which is internal problem of Pakistan. Okay, second is the Durand Line. Now this is essentially a colonial wound. Okay, now when we talk about this Durand Line, okay, the 2600 kilometer line. Now, this is something that has already been disputed, okay, and it is due to the hostilities that are being born out of this issue. Okay, next comes the Pakistan's prodigal son problem. Okay, now this is again a very prominent problem. Okay, now Taliban views TTP as something that they can ideologically align with. They are refusing to attack against them, and this is the reason why Pakistan is infuriated with the Talibani administration in Afghanistan. Okay, next comes the India factor and the geopolitical paranoia. Recently, the Pakistani defense minister has accused the Taliban of turning Afghanistan into a colony of India. Now, this is a very big statement that has been given by the Pakistan's defense minister. And now Pakistan fears that with India's deepening ties with Taliban and the presence of US in this region, the Pakistan is now concerned about their territorial sovereignty. Afghanistan, on the other hand, views Pakistan's airstrikes as the violation of its sovereignty as well as the international laws. Clear? So, by and large, we can understand that on one side, Pakistan is seeing the hostile encirclement by India and US a concerning cause, whereas the Taliban is seeing this as an ungrateful foreign master who has now been going against the country itself. Okay. Moving ahead, the current situation. Now, when we talk about the current situation or the recent escalations that has taken place, okay, we can understand that Pakistan's position is recently they have conducted intelligence-based ground operations and aerial strikes in Paktika and the Kunar provinces, and Pakistan has categorically mentioned that they have been against the TTP insurgents. Okay, it claims 25 fighters have been killed in the latest strikes and says that Afghanistan's soil and nationals are being used to orchestrate terrorist strikes inside Pakistan. They have also summoned the Afghanistan's top diplomat in Afghanistan for a formal protest. Okay. On the other hand, the Afghanistan's position is also similar. Okay. Afghanistan has rejected the Pakistani claims and they have said that these strikes have hit and they have been targeted towards the residential area and not the militant hideouts. It reports that 36 civilians have been killed, including women and children, and 163 injured. Now, this describes the airstrikes as the violation of international law and Afghanistan's sovereignty, and Afghanistan has vowed retaliation against the same. Clear? So we can also see a pattern going on. Now, attacks take place inside Pakistan. A massive Pakistani retaliation takes place inside Afghanistan. Taliban denies this and then threats, and then this cycle repeats. Clear? So this is something that has been going on. Okay, but if we have a look, both these sides have got clear-cut perspectives of their own. Okay, and it is upon the international community to decide that who is right. Pakistan, on one hand, it's saying that TTP safe havens have been created in Afghanistan. Cross-border terrorism is unacceptable that is taking place from Afghanistan, and Afghanistan's soils must not be used against Pakistan. Okay, and in this context, Pakistan has been saying that they have the right to self-defense. On the other hand, Afghanistan says that Pakistan's real issue across the entire border is the real issue. Okay. They have been categorically saying that Pakistan has been striking the residential areas and non-militant hideouts, and they have been targeting women as well as children. So thus they say that Pakistan is violating the Afghanistan sovereignty, and then the Afghanistan vows that we will retaliate. So both the sides have been accusing each other of aggression while refusing to de-escalate the matter. Okay, so if we have a superficial look, we will understand that neither side is blameless. Okay, Pakistan on one side has a legitimate security concern, but the Taliban has a legitimate sovereignty concern. Okay, the result is this stalemate that has been created amongst both of these sides. Okay. Now, when we talk about the international dimension, India has strongly condemned this. Now, they have called Pakistan's strike a blatant act of aggression and have called it a direct threat to regional peace. India has been openly taking Afghanistan's side, and this is again a major concern for Pakistan. Similarly, Indian neighbor China has been hosting both the sides since April. Okay, and both have agreed not to escalate. Clear? So China has called upon the officials of both the countries, and both have promised before China that they would not escalate. If we talk about the Saudi Arabia, Turkey, or Qatar, they had mediated a temporary pause for Eid ul Fitr. Okay. If we talk about the UN or the US perspective, we can understand that UN had recorded around 75 civilian deaths since February, and they have called for restraint and protection of civilians. Okay. So, by and large, no major power wants this issue to spiral, but no one is willing to force a solution out of it. Okay. India has been strongly condemning, and why India is doing so? Because it is geopolitically significant for India. Now, it also shows that India is actively leveraging its conflict to isolate Pakistan diplomatically. Okay. Now, when we see, can Pakistan sustain this? The bigger issue is, can Pakistan sustain this? Okay. Now, military stretch, Pakistan is already fighting TTP and the Baloch insurgency internally. Okay, so this is something that Pakistan has been into a two-front conflict, and this is a big nightmare for them. Second is the economic crisis. Okay, now Pakistan does not have an appetite for a prolonged or an expensive war. They are heavily dependent upon IMF and the Gulf support that is being given to them. Moreover, China is pressurizing Pakistan for peace due to its CPEC establishments. Okay. Next is heavily dependent on foreign aid, as I have discussed, and risk of international sanctions and future challenges that they have to favor. Okay, so Afghanistan's rugged terrain. Okay, so Pakistan does not have only these issues. The bigger issue is the logistical challenges. Okay, now we can understand that Afghanistan's rugged terrain is favoring Afghanistan. Okay, and a ground invasion by Pakistan is almost impossible to take place. Clear? Now, this open war declaration is likely a hard lining signaling. Okay, and it is not an immediate shift towards a total conventional war. Pakistan's military is overstretched, and economically they are very fragile. They are using aggressive rhetoric just to signal resolve, but a full scale invasion is next to impossible in this case. Okay, now, this is a war of attrition and not a war of annihilation. So, we can understand one thing, that Pakistan has been using all of these strategies, all of these terms to now shift this war from ground towards a psychological war. Okay. And when we talk about the outlook as well as the implications of this, okay, this tit for tat attacks will continue in this. Both sides will claim victory to save their face, but the ultimate sufferers will be the civilians in this case. The civilian toll will keep mounting. Okay, but the biggest impact of this war, of this conflict, will be upon the trade. Okay, the trade routes, including the CPEC, will face disruptions. Radicalization on both the sides will increase, and India will officially may take leverage of this situation diplomatically to isolate Pakistan. Okay, so by and large, this war is very unlikely to become a full scale or a conventional war, but in this phase wherein both the countries are rogue nations, okay, any miscalculation could take this war out of control. The only way out in this situation is mediation, either by a country like China, Qatar, or Turkey. And Pakistan must address the internal grievances that are being raised by TTP. Moreover, Taliban must find a way to distance itself from TTP without losing any credibility domestically. So, this conflict is more like a wound that will keep bleeding. Unless external mediators force any deal or expect more of maturity from both the sides, okay, the strikes have to be limited, the rhetorics have to stop, and civilian casualties must end on the priorities. Okay, so this is possibly the way out. Okay, but by and large, we have seen that the longer issues that have not been addressed by Pakistan is the root cause of this issue. Okay. Moreover, the war can be ended provided Pakistan tackles the issues and addresses them Okay, and Pakistan, on the other hand, is expecting Taliban to hand over the control of TTP, which Taliban is refusing. Okay, so a greater mature country must have to negotiate a deal in between them, and finally, Pakistan has to act in favor of addressing those issues. Okay, so this was effectively all from my side. Please do let me know your comments, your suggestions also in the comment section, and do not remember to avail the discount which is ending today. So today the discount is ending, which is offering you flat 50% off and double validity. You just need to use the code SRM Live. Okay, and just remember that the admission to our GS Foundation batches in the P2I batches is also ending today. Okay, so please do not waste any moment further. Subscribe to these courses and give a new shape to your UPSC preparation. So we'll see you all in the next session. Jai Hind.